YouTube, hello, welcome to the spoiler version of our Final Fantasy VII Rebirth review. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the series. If you did get a chance to watch it here on YouTube, or if you're just checking in to check out just kind of what my thought was on the game overall, I appreciate it. Hope you all enjoyed the game. Hope you all are excited to hear my thoughts on it. And yeah, I appreciate y'all being here, YouTube. Let's get to chatting. Let's get to chatting. All right, so for folks that are here that are looking to not have spoilers for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, this is your warning. We're gonna get into the nitty gritty. I'm gonna talk about pretty much everything, which may take 30 minutes, may take an hour, I don't know. I'm gonna sit down, we're gonna chat. The one thing that bothers me, and I kind of went on a rant about this yesterday, and I'm gonna go more on a rant about it today, is the portrayal of Cloud about, I'd say like 65% of the way through the game onwards. I feel like everyone in this game from a character perspective is damn near flawless. I'm gonna say it. I think it was damn near flawless, honestly. Like Barrett, Tifa, Kate Sith was incredible. Red 13, like every single character in this game, Sid and Vincent, like they both are very well done, right? Like everyone was incredibly well done, and Cloud is incredibly well done too. The direction that they decided to take with Cloud, trying to make him basically be a jerk, right? To try to portray the fact that Sephiroth has a hold on him and it can control his actions and his emotions and his, like, you know, what he's, it just impact in a way that we didn't see as clearly in the original game. I feel like they were very heavy-handed with it in this game, and it bothered me quite a bit near the end, where I feel like the audience in general and the gamers, the players, the people playing the game all knew. Like, even if you've never played the original 7, it was incredibly clear at the Gongaga reactor, right? That was the first time that, like, it was like pretty obvious up until that point, but at the Gongaga reactor, they made it incredibly clear that Sephiroth is in control. When he put his sword up like Sephiroth does and like ripped through those guys like that, it was immediately clear that moment. It didn't have to be said again. It didn't have to be done again. They could have just had him do like the wobbles and stuff. Like, yeah, it was so weird. It was so weird because it's not over, right? It's not over. They're going to continue to do this in the third game. Like, I feel pretty confident in that. The way that it ended, he clearly still doesn't have a good grip on what's happening around him, right? And it's just so heavy-handed that I don't think it's necessary. I really don't think it's necessary, right? There was like the young version of me that played Final Fantasy VII for the first time. I adored Cloud as a character. All the stuff that he had to go through, you know, being a kid and trying to have to prove himself. It was very relatable. Like, obviously being a super soldier is not relatable, but like being a kid, being a teen, feeling like you're not strong enough, wanting to go somewhere to help yourself get strong, failing, and then not wanting to show your face, keeping a mask on the entire time so you didn't have to show that you'd failed. It was very relatable, right? As a teenager, especially, right? And all of those things I feel like are still very relatable, and they've done a decent job of trying to make that portrayal again. But I do feel like it's just like the Sephiroth controlling him and making him do bad things and be a dick is just too heavy-handed, in my opinion, and it definitely hurt my experience overall. Because my portrayal of Cloud leading up until this point was fairly positive, right? And in this game, it's hard to like him at the end of the game. It really is. It's hard to like him. He's the protagonist, and it's hard to like him versus the other characters in the party who are like in this game doing a better job of trying to like reel him back in without making him go into an episode. Where in the first game, they kind of ignored it. They didn't really like address it. They didn't really call him out on shit. And they have in this game a couple of times, not nearly as much as they probably should have, but at least they're trying, right? But it's definitely an interesting portrayal of the character that I disagree with pretty vehemently overall. Yeah, and I don't think it needed to be that aggressive to that point, right? I don't think it needed to be that aggressive where they were just like constantly shoving it in your face, because it makes him feel like a character you shouldn't like. Aerith is only in the position that she's in from the player's eyes, right? Aerith is only in the position that she's in because of what Cloud's shortcomings are, right? And that's, you know, parallel to what we saw in the original game But like in this game, you really feel like it's Cloud's fault. Like it's incredibly clear that Cloud fucked this up, and it probably shouldn't have happened that way. Right. Yeah, and Barrett, again, to Barrett's credit, there are a couple of times where he starts to say it, and they tell him to shush. And he's just like, all right, like... So other than that, though, from the character's perspective, I really do think that they nailed every single character in this game. I really do. I think every single character in this game has been incredibly well done. Even Cloud, outside of that criticism, right? I still think Cloud's a very well done character, and he does a good job. And there are instances in this game, like his interactions with Yuffie, his interactions with Tifa, his interactions with Aerith, with Barrett, all the other party members. It really helps you understand that like Cloud's a pretty good person overall. But again, it soiled my, what would have been like a 10 out of 10 on characters. I probably give it a 9, right? Because I really do think that ruined my perspective of it, right? And this is incredibly subjective and based off of my previous experience in Final Fantasy VII and my perception of Cloud, right? And that's obviously going to be incredibly subjective based on person by person. Some people may not like Cloud and they may see this Cloud and just go, well, I didn't like Cloud, so this is just validating. And that's totally fair. That's totally fair. But from my perspective, I didn't feel that way about Cloud. So yeah, that's a fair point too, Harley, in terms of the, like seeing Myrna and everything. I feel like everybody reacts to traumatic experiences a little bit differently, right? And Barrett so far had kind of been, he'd been the rock, but they were showing throughout the game, they were showing chinks in the armor, right? Where he was getting emotional at things and he was like, you were seeing him cry and he was trying to fight back tears. And like, I feel like maybe at that point, he had maybe just accepted that something good had happened, because like all of these bad things continue to happen. And like now here's this one opportunity where something might be good. And so he just embraced it. Whether that was logical or not is kind of irrelevant, right? Yeah, that was odd too. I get that maybe they may have not, maybe they didn't see him do it, right? They only saw Tifa fall. I have to go back and watch that scene again. But it's definitely strange. It was definitely strange. And I get that they recognize that he's bugging out, right? And there's something wrong there, but it's definitely a, yeah. Well, and it was up to her to actually tell the group whether or not that happened. I think she definitely told Aerith, but and that's another thing too, where Tifa like confiding everything and talking about everything that she's talked about. She's only talked to Aerith about it. And now with Aerith likely gone, spoilers, I suppose, with Aerith likely gone, you know, that was Tifa's rock. And now Tifa's rock is gone. So that's tough. Starting off, the main plot. Overall, I think the main plot was incredibly well done, right? Incredibly well done. Absolutely not, Harley. Incredibly well done. From start to finish, like the payoff at the end was incredibly well done. It was incredibly good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't have a lot of criticisms when it comes to the main plot in general. So starting from the beginning, right, from the first couple of chapters, chapter 1 obviously was just a flashback sequence. They start with you start this game off playing as Zack. You get to get a good idea of like Zack's world, Zack's different timeline, right? Which we'll talk more about Zack's timeline later on. But you get to control Zack, you get to fight as Zack. It's a very fun way to open the game. Then obviously the flashback sequence with Cloud and Sephiroth, and then going through the grasslands. Going through the grasslands was when I had to sit back. After the second stream, when we were going through the grasslands doing all the intel, I had to sit back and go, fuck, like this game's good. I was completing things in the grasslands because I wanted to. I wasn't doing it because I felt like I was like marking off a list and I saw the checkboxes and I felt like they all had to be filled up. I did it because I wanted to. I wanted to see more of the world. I wanted to see more of the intel. I wanted to see more of the grasslands because of how much effort they put in to make it look great, right? To JD's point. You know, I wanted to see it. I wanted to experience it. And then I moved on to the Mithril Mines and I didn't want to leave. The battle music, oh, that's the one thing. Let me back it up really quick. The transition from the overworld music into the battle music and just having it like ramp up is beautifully done. Beautifully done. The music in Square Enix titles in general is almost always very strong. In this game may be one of their best soundtracks. It's not as good as It's like, it's close to 16. I think 16's is still a little bit better. But Rebirth's soundtrack is so fun. So fun. So fun. It's very well done. I don't know that it eclipses 16's for me. 16's is really well done for me. Yeah. Well, and again, like, don't get me wrong. The Nobuo Uematsu song is what it is currently. I wonder if I can show this. It is currently my #1 song on my on repeat on Spotify. I have been listening to this song so much, I know all of the lyrics. Like, all of it. The music is phenomenal. It's so good. And this isn't me saying it's not quite as good as 16. They're both 10s. It's not close. They're both 10s. They're both fantastic. There wasn't a time where the music was going that I was just like, this isn't very good. Not once. Not a single time. Not once. Not exploring the cities, not going over the like in the overworld, not in any of the fights, nothing. Not a single moment. Every single moment the music was incredibly well done, incredibly well executed, incredibly good. Just in general. Absolutely fantastic. You know what, Baku, 100% they had that statement right there. Absolutely. That's exactly it. There are probably two, oh man, is there 3? I can't think of 3 off the top of my head. There are 2 immediately that come to mind. No Promises to Keep is instantly for me. And then the final boss music against like Genova, like even the Sephiroth music at the end was incredibly good too. But the Genova theme was very well done. The date song was very good too. Yeah. Oh, God, and Loveless too. God, Loveless was really good too. So like you can see though, there are instances, right, where they kind of reached that plateau, that ceiling. And I don't think they missed that ceiling by a ton in the other songs, but 16 hits that ceiling a lot. Probably at least half a dozen times, if not more. So each of the icon fights, like, instantly, like, it's just so fun. And this isn't going to be a comparison video. I'm just talking about specifically, like, Rebirth. But getting back into the overworld, like, the only area that I did not like in general was Gongaga. And even Gongaga, I probably would have given, like, a 7, I think is probably fair, out of 10. Where, like, the traversal in that area was not very fun, but the side quests were. I enjoyed the intel fights. I enjoyed there was a Marbolo fight in that area that I thought was a lot of fun. I didn't like the bouncy chocobo bits, yeah. And having it be in a required part for traversal is what I think made it bad. If it was just to help you traverse the area faster, that would have been more fun. But because some areas were locked behind you actually finding the right mushroom, that made that area not very fun for me, which is kind of a bummer. Because the area itself, Gongaga might be one of the most beautiful areas in general, right? It may be. In terms of the chocobos for each region, I think they did a great job. I think they did a great job with each chocobos having their own abilities. Obviously, in Costa del Sol and in the Grasslands, they didn't really have an ability per se. They were more just required. Like one of the chocobo in Costa del Sol was required for the one side quest, and then the chocobo in the Grasslands was required for progression, which is normal based on the original game. They did a great job. They did a great job with the chocobos. It was very fun to be able to play with the different chocobos, because I get the feeling in part 3 they may not be as relevant or as required as they were in part 2. So it was nice to be able to have the different chocobos, like being able to glide around in the Cosmo Canyon was super fun. My favorite one was actually Nibelheim's. It was the last chocobo in the entire game. Was one of my favorite chocobos in the game. Being able to use the water and like fly around and coast around like that was so fun. What a fun way to use the blue chocobo, rather than just like it can run on water. No, it can fly on water, and watch it as it uses this jet stream to fly it up faster. That was super cool. Yeah, moving into Queensblood for a bit. Queensblood is probably. Ooh, this is going to be a hot take. Queensblood's probably my favorite card mini game that they've made. I understand that Queensblood has like a certain optimization to it, and it makes it probably not as overall PvP fun as maybe Triple Triad would be. I don't think Triple Triad comes close to what Queensblood is or what Queensblood could be, because Queensblood could be even more than it is right now, and I think they would probably soar past the ceiling of Triple Triad pretty easily. Now, that said, I'm not slamming Triple Triad here. This is me saying that, like, Triple Triad was a 10, right? Or Triple Triad was a 9, and this is also a 9 or a 10, right? They're right neck to neck for me. But like Queensblood to me is easily more fun than Triple Triad is. That's my opinion. And to put a plot behind it, and a fairly good plot actually, I feel like they did a pretty great job overall. Yeah, and I don't think they expected the reception for Queensblood to be so good, right? So if they ever do decide to put Queensblood in, because let's be honest, Queensblood's probably, if they ever get a standalone version of Queensblood, it's probably going into 14. That's just my initial thought. They may put it in the mobile game, just because it probably would fit pretty well in Ever Crisis in terms of like just making it a mini game that people could have fun with. And that's like it's a free app that you can just download, and then you can play Queensblood if you want, or you can play the plot, or if you're out of stamina, you can play Queensblood instead. And you can get some like menial rewards for winning tournaments and shit. Like they could definitely fuck around and find out if they put it in Ever Crisis, but I have the feeling if they ever did a standalone, it's probably going to 14. But even like some of the unique characters in Queensblood were really fun to talk to engage with, right? Like, what's her name? Rhonda? I think her name was Rhonda. Good note that I don't remember the name. But yeah, so that's kind of my overview of the like the the general areas. The Queensblood, I feel like was really great, right? Yeah, on the boat. That's one of the, it was so fun. It was so fun to even like play against the, cause you can go back and play against different people now, right? Cause I chose to play against Andrea, but we could have played against Madam M. Like we didn't have to choose to play against Andrea. We could have played against somebody else. And there may have been a totally different like conversation line there that I haven't even seen, right? And that's kind of like where how do I want to put this? I like that there's a reason to replay the game, right? And this is completely separate from Final Fantasy, but a big issue that I had with Resident Evil 3 Remake wasn't about the game design, right? It wasn't about the game design, it wasn't about the music, it wasn't about the voice acting. All of that in Resident Evil 3 Remake was great, right? The gameplay was fun, the voices were great, the graphics were good, the interactions were fun, the enemies were fun, right? There was a lot about Resident Evil 3 Remake that did things right. What they did wrong was there wasn't a lot of reason to go back and play it again. Where like the original Resident Evil 3, there were different branches that you could go down, and it all went up to the same top of the tree, right? By the time you got to the top, you still had the same payoff at the end, but like the different branches of the tree going up allowed you to replay the game and have fun with it, right? Allowed you to have a reason to go back and use that rocket launcher that you unlocked, right? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has that. Maybe not as extreme, but like Rebirth's replay value feels pretty high to me, right? But like with the different dates, with the Queensblood missions, and if you don't want to have to go through the entire game again and you just want to go back and do the dates again, you can just do that with Mission Select, and that's a great idea. A great idea. They did that was a fantastic idea. Right. Like even certain side quests, I would love to redo some of the side quests because they were super fun. It was fun to have a side quest with one of the characters and do something fun with the character, right? Like the Tifa finding her cat and doing the piano bit at the end. Like, I mean, Jesus Christ, dude. In terms of like the voice acting in this game, I think it was about as good as we were ever gonna get for these characters. I feel like they brought these characters to life in ways that I never would have dreamed, right? The voice acting in this game was phenomenal. Absolutely, like bar none, one of the best. Just end it there, one of the best. Easy sign off. I can't think of a single scenario where I was just like, man, I feel like that could have been done a little bit better. I can't think of it, and if I did say that throughout the 105 hours of me playing, it was maybe once. Talking about the pianos, it's a good opportunity to go into the minigames. So let's talk about the minigames really quickly, and then we'll go straight into side quest. I tend to agree that this game feels a little overbloated with minigames, okay? So don't hear what I'm not saying when I'm about to tell you that I do not care. I do not care. I don't care that there's too many mini games. I don't care that some of them missed. It just doesn't bother me at all, even in the slightest. It really doesn't. Because at the end of the day, none of those mini games are required. None of them. You don't have to do a single one of them. Ultimately, it's just more content in the game to play. And in this world, to be absolutely honest with you, in an engaging experience that I felt like I wanted more. Every single time I went to a new area, I wanted more. I wanted to be able to experience more. I wanted to be able to do something else. I wanted to be able to stay in Costa del Sol for a longer time, and they gave me reasons to be there. For the players that didn't want to do that, they could just move on. You didn't have to go through the hard mode difficulties of that. And for the completionists, it sucks, right? It sucks that you have to go through and do hard mode missions and stuff like that. And it's stuck, it's locked, the platinum trophy's locked behind you doing things that you're not necessarily a fan of. I get that. I totally understand that, I do. And I do think that there are mini games. Looking at you, sit up minigame. Square, if you're watching this, which I doubt you are, but if you are watching this, please, for the love of God, do not put the workout minigame in the third part. Please, I'm begging you. I'm begging you, it's not fun. It's not fun. It's just not fun. No one likes it. No one goes to one of those mini games and goes, man, that was a great time. It sucks. It sucks. No one likes it. Please. Please. Please stop. Yes, you're right, Baku. I'm sorry. That one was required. The dolphin jumping mini game. That one wasn't too bad either, though. And I actually like the dolphin jumping one. It's gonna be push-ups next time. You know what, Larry? Honestly, you're probably not wrong. You're probably not wrong. And that's the, you know what? Maybe it'll be boulder punching with Barrett. So, but yeah, so there are some mini games in the game that I don't think are as fun as others. For me personally, I enjoyed a good portion of it. I'd say over half, well over half for me. Like, it's probably closer to 60% for me. And the other bit of it, like probably 30 to 35% of it, you're probably thinking like, oh, you know, I did it and it was fine. Like, I did it once and I was done, you know. And some of the ones that come to mind, the Chocobo gliding game in Cosmo Canyon, I was kind of a one and done with that one. The sit-up minigame, obviously, as soon as I got done with that, I was never doing that again. But even like some of the things like, oh, what's a good example? Those are probably the best examples, honestly, because even like Pirates Rampage, the shooter game, like the shooting game, I thought that game was super fun. I'm bad at it. But it is fun. Like, it's nothing crazy, but it was an engaging time. It was fun. The mushroom picking, that side quest, yeah, that one was a little poopy, but it didn't really muddy the experience for me, right? In those moments, it did. And there were a couple of the Moogle Mischief games that I wasn't a huge fan of, because I don't like that you can leap or jump over like waist-high crates in the overworld. But now for this one mini game, they can fly over the waist-high crates, but you can't jump over it all of a sudden. Like, your legs just don't work anymore. And that was weird for me. Yeah, and like the Red Rocket League, I play Rocket League a lot. So like, it wasn't anything like Rocket League, obviously, but like, that game was fine. I don't love it, but I didn't hate it. And like, I got it done pretty quickly, so I was past it and I just moved on. But ultimately, like I said, there were only a couple of mini games that immediately jumped out at me as ones that I would never do again unless I absolutely have to. The ones that come to mind instantly for me, the sit-up mini game for sure, would never do that again, ever again. And then the 3D brawler, in the Golden Saucer. I can't stand that game. I hate games like that where like it requires you to like pause buffer or like some memorization thing to try to get through it, and it just gets like more and more like confusing or not as clear as the game goes on. But it's just like it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. Yeah, and I actually like the robots in Gambit's game. I like that quite a bit. The Queensblood game, even the G-Bike game I had fun with, the different battle simulators and stuff, which we'll get into Chadley here in a second, but like the different battle simulators of the Gold Saucer, the obviously Queensblood we already talked about. The Chocobo races I had a lot of fun with. I had a lot of fun with the Chocobo races overall. I like the different customization options with the Chocobo races. I feel like I didn't talk about that a lot during the actual gameplay, but the Chocobo races I thought were a lot of fun. And it was just it was a lot of fun, man. I enjoyed my time with the minigames overall. I do think that there is a little bit of bloat there, and I think they probably could thin that out in the third game, but it wasn't enough for me to like be pissed about it or say that like, ew, this game's too bloaty, I don't like it. No, I don't care. I don't care. I'm glad it was there, because that means that if I wanted to play more, there was something else for me to do, and that's what I liked. Yeah, exactly, Larry. Exactly. Because even if you go into like me being frustrated with the sit-up minigame, me being frustrated with the like the hitboxes in the Cosmo Canyon flying thing, the 3D brawler thing, I think overall those three combined probably took me an hour and a half total to finish out of 105 hours. I'm good. It's okay. Yeah, so that's kind of where I was going with Chadley as well. The one minute you felt like plucking the mushrooms in Gongaga, yeah. So Chadley, it feels like Chadley, I haven't finished the Meridian Ocean bit at this point, which is the last intel part in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and the fight with Gilgamesh, which I imagine there'll be a final fight with Gilgamesh. But there were a lot of times where Chadley would interrupt the flow and add something that did not matter, right? Or add something that was incredibly obvious. And I feel like in those moments, it started to make me, where I really liked Chadley for like the first 2 regions, like the Grasslands and Junon, I was fine, right? And then Coastal del Sol, he started pissing me off. And then in Cosmo Canyon, I wanted to mute him. Like, so it definitely got to a point where Chadley was a little bit overdone and interrupted too much. And I feel like, yes, exactly. Like, we didn't need that. We're already having to read stuff. And like saying that something unlocked, just post that it unlocked. It's fine. It's fine. Have him and Mai talk to us when we get there. Don't interrupt what we're doing. Don't interrupt my gameplay flow so much. It's like, relax. We get it. We get that this is his thing. We get it. It's fine. Right? It's fine. I get it. But for me, it's just like, it was a little bit too much. Other than that, though, like I said before, I loved all the intel. I love the combat simulator in general. I think the combat simulator fights were super fun. The summon fights were so fun, dude. The only fight that I did not like, and this kind of goes into the Rufus fight as well, but there was a fight where you had to fight the Mind Flayer, and the goal was to like utilize status effects to take out the Mind Flayer before the 2 enemies exploded. And that was just like, it's so wildly different from what's expected of you in the rest of the game. Those two instances specifically, were so different in terms of combat style than anything else in the game, and it makes them not fun as a result, right? It makes them not fun as a result. I understand that you're trying to make Rufus come off as like this really powerful adversary that's not just going to be some pushover that you can't just roll through him like you roll through the Turks, right? You can't just roll through them. It's not going to be that easy. I get that perspective, but there are better ways to do it than trying to change how the player has been playing, because that fight was so far ahead. Like at that point, we were what, 80 hours in? And it's just, and with the Mind Flayer fight, we were probably 60 hours in. And both of those instances, you're just like, we have not been doing these things like at all, right? So to have them throw those 2 things in felt incredibly jarring. That said, the reason why those 2 fights feel so jarring is because the rest of the game is incredible. That's why it feels so jarring. The rest of the game is so fun. All of the big payoff fights, the Marbolo fights, I think I said that right. The Quetzalcoatl fight, and so basically all the big enemies in every region were super fun to play. And just overall, the game's combat was just, it was just bar none one of the most fun I've had in a Final Fantasy game in ages. It was cool that they put Test Zero into the game. I still think that was one of like, and that's the other bit that I think is probably important to put in this as well, is like the love letter to the original Final Fantasy is so apparent in this. Like they went through every single effort to try to put Easter eggs and stuff in this game that hardcore fans would love, and newcomers would be like, oh, this is just super cool, right? And it was such a fine balance. And they did this, by the way, with the plot, with the combat, with all the enemies that we had to fight and things like that. They did such a great job balancing that line of, if you read all of the required reading, you had an elevated experience. And if you didn't read all of that stuff, you still had a great time, and it didn't like reduce how much fun you had with the game, right? Yeah, the PS1 for a condo model. Yeah, absolutely, right? The sleeping guy is a side quest. It was super well done, man. Like that's like some of those stuff in the Easter eggs to still include like the bits that we were expecting to see, but knew probably weren't going to be done the same way. They executed that so incredibly well. Every single time I start talking about this game, and every single time I start thinking about this game, I start to get like, every single time I criticize this game, it's because I feel like I'm playing the perfect experience. And when something pulls me out of that perfect experience, it makes me want to like scream, because I'm having a perfect time already. How dare this one instance pull me out of my perfect window? And so I want to like reiterate that even in the times that I got frustrated while I was streaming this game, and it happened a couple of times, right? It did. But I feel like every single one of those times was either the cloud thing that we already mentioned, right? Or specifically them pulling me out of that zone where I felt like I was playing one of the greatest games ever made, and they pulled me out of that moment just briefly to be like, no, bad, get back in your lane, this is average. And that like obviously wasn't true. Obviously the way that they handled Aerith, I feel like they did a pretty good job. They had to do what they had to do to like keep the players engaged, and I think having the ending the way that they did, while it's incredibly confusing, I kind of expected it to be confusing, and to be honest, it actually is a little less confusing than I thought it was, or I imagined it was going to be. So overall, I feel like they executed the ending very well. And every single time I go through, and because I've been watching the videos as they post on YouTube, to be honest with you, I've been watching not all of them, but a good portion of them, right? And as I'm watching these videos, I'm finding myself just so enamored with everything that they've managed to accomplish here. Like, yeah, none of the NPCs are lifeless. That's another thing. It's another great thing, right? The moment you stepped into Calm and you looked around and you saw this city and how much life they breathed into the city, and all of the characters you spoke with all had personalities, right? And they all had life. And even Kyrie was fun in the game, right? Like, she had a reason to be there, you know what I mean? And like finding characters that you met in Remake, finding characters that you just met in Rebirth, everybody felt like they were there for a reason and not just inserted, right? Like, this is a good character, put them here, right? Every character felt like they had a purpose. Roche felt like he had a payoff in this game, right? And so like, this game, from the moment you stepped into Calm to the moment you left Nibelheim and went to the Temple of the Ancients, every single area was so masterfully well done and so gorgeous, right? So gorgeous. And everything felt like what I would have expected, because when you were a kid, you play these games, right? And you imagine what Nibelheim actually looks like based on the polygons you see on screen, right? It was like when you were reading a book before, where you were like, imagine what you're reading, you know what I mean? And it would kind of like play in your head, kind of what you're seeing, what you're reading. And you have this idea, this picture in your mind of what it would look like if it was like a real, like if it was right in front of you, right? This felt like they took every single thing I had in my head about this, about what I felt about Final Fantasy VII OG, and they painted on a canvas a picture that I would have never even imagined. It was by far the most impressive thing I think they possibly could have done, and I just don't know how to praise it any higher than that, honestly. I'm a little worried about that too, Lily. Let me read the rest of it first, but I saw the first sentence and I was like, I'm a little worried about that too. Yeah, and it gives them a lot of opportunity to make change in the next game. And this is kind of the same point that we made about Remake as well, right? When we were talking about how Remake ended and how they did a good job of making it so open-ended that it allowed for a lot of possibilities in Rebirth. And look what they did with that. They ran with it, right? And they executed it incredibly well. People may not like the split timeline thing, and I totally understand that. I really, really do. I totally understand that, and I'm not going to defend it. You're not going to hear me defend it today. Nope. But they did a good job with it. I feel like the only thing I have to complain about with Zach is that it was a little too infrequent for me. Either give it to me in a large section and let me play as him and let me get a good idea of what's happening in his world, and stop giving it to me in chunks, like 3 or 4 chapters apart. So like that kind of stuff is probably my only criticism when it comes to how they like portrayed a portion of this game. I feel like the Zach portion was a little weak overall. It's definitely something that's going to have to be done a little bit better in the next game, because he's obviously still going to be in the game. They made that incredibly clear in the end. He's still going to be in the part 3. He's still going to be involved. They're still going to have him in the main plot. The question is how they're going to do it, and hopefully it'll be a little bit better executed in the next game. The thing that makes me happy about getting to the end here and having a chance for Aerith to be alive, having a chance for Zach to be alive, it is a little fan servicey, right? It is a little fan servicey, but there's no reason not to say that. But this project is for the fans at the end of the day, right? It is. So for them to do some fan service stuff, like, you know, say that Aerith might still be alive, say that Zach has a chance to come back, like, People love that shit. They eat it up. And so if that's gonna add to people's experience at the end of the day, and they do it, I don't care. Because they did it in Kingdom Hearts 3 as well with the fan service. And it annoyed me. It annoyed me. I wanted the game to be different than that. But then ultimately, I saw how many people were happy about what happened, and I just like, all right, well, you know, maybe they were right to do it then. So, and to Lily's point, it may just be fan service. They may go to the end of this game, and it may end exactly the same way that we expect. All the timelines may just crash. They may just say, hey, we have to fuse everything together. You can't exist in order for this to work. Like, in order for us to win, you can't exist anymore. And so maybe that's how it'll end. Who knows? Who knows? But the best part about this is they gave us an opportunity to see that happen, right? They gave us an opportunity to see that happen. So I mentioned this in the non-spoiler review. I'm going to say it again here. Like, again, I don't normally do like number grades or number grades. I don't really do number grades, but this is as close to a 10 for me as it's ever going to be. This is probably my favorite Final Fantasy game. I think it probably dethroned 10 at this point. And that's saying something because I have thousands of hours in 10. Thousands. I absolutely love 10. I'm going to play this game so much. Like, so much. And I don't think I'm going to regret any moment, to be honest with you. I love the characters. I want to be in the world more. I want to be in the world more. I want to engage with the characters more. I want to be dialed into this world more than I have been. And I haven't gotten to feel this way about a game since Persona, like Persona 5. So it's nice that I get to feel this way about a game again. If you're looking for a reason to buy this game, I hope I'm the reason that you do it, honestly. Because if I didn't have a PlayStation 5, I would buy it for this. Expendable income aside. Because again, I recognize it's expensive, but I would buy it for this. I would. It's enough for me. It's because I'm probably gonna get at least 1,000 hours out of this game, at least. And I'm not gonna regret a single moment. Regardless, this game, I spent 105 hours in it. I'm probably going to spend 900 more. I don't think that's an exaggeration. This game is absolutely phenomenal. I enjoyed every single minute. I'm glad that I recorded it. I'm glad I put it up here on YouTube. I'm glad I streamed it here on Twitch. And I'm glad, I'm glad it exists, man. This has been a really great experience for me. This has been a really special experience for me. And it's not over for me yet. I'm going to keep playing it, man. I'm excited to get back into it. I'm excited to play some more. I'm excited to just like dive into the game more and just, immerse myself in a world that I just have absolutely fallen in love with again. It's like I've fallen in love with the game all over again. It's so great. It's just so great. When I say that this game is like, as close to a 10 as it gets, I understand there's criticisms. I understand there's reasons to not like certain bits. I understand there's reasons that there's things that drag on. And from a perspective of streaming this, right? We have to keep in mind as content creators that there are certain things that drag on for a little too long that folks don't want to watch, right? So when you see certain content creators skip through things or don't do some stuff, right? There's a reason for that. It's just a little too slow for on stream. I wouldn't have complained about half of this shit that I complained about if I was playing it on my couch. I'd have just did it. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I hope you all did too. If you haven't had a chance to watch the YouTube series, I'll have that plugged here at the end of the video if you're interested in checking it out. Hope you all enjoyed. If you're interested in being part of the conversation, make sure you check out the comment section below. You can post anything you want. This is the spoiler version of the video, so you're more than welcome to post anything you'd like. If you want to talk about the ending, talk about anything like that, I'm more than happy to have some conversation down in the comment section below. And I appreciate y'all watching. If you haven't already, make sure you like the video and subscribe. Doing a variety of content here on the YouTube channel. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you're enjoying this stuff so far. And yeah, I appreciate y'all being here, YouTube. And as always, we'll see you again in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.